Yes. Welcome back to another new edition of Raps on TV Boxing News. We're not only live this time, guys, we're live streaming as well. It's been a while with a few things in the background, but we're back with a bang with a jam-packed, content-flowing agenda for this week's heavyweight showdown between WBC King Deontay Wilder, the Bomber, and lineal heavyweight champion, the Gypsy King Tyson Fury. I'm joined as always in the studio with my two King co-hosts, Kojo and Tom. How are you both doing, guys? Long time.
Bob Squad!
Bob Squad!
Yeah, doing good, Anam. It's good to see you back. Good to take things to the next level now. I mean, we were talking 2018's been a good year for boxing, but Raps on TV back again. 2019 is the year, and just looking to take things now to the next level. So, yeah, it's going to be another stat weekend, obviously with the big heavyweight showdown between Wilder and Fury at the Staples Center in LA. And we've also got Adonis Stevenson defending his WBC title against unbeaten Ukrainian Gvodyzk for the light heavyweight belt. So, yeah, great week of boxing. And, yeah, we're just going to recap a few things from the weekend.
Yes, guys, I'm back again. Everyone's here in the building. It's been a busy weekend that we got to look forward to. Last weekend, Tom and myself went to one of the events called This Is Boxing, a great new concept which took place down in the York Hall. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. But really looking forward to this weekend. Don't forget, guys, if you want to give us your opinion, let us know your thoughts, ask us any questions. The key number to call is 01506 243 403. Boom, guys, it's all you.
So, guys, you know, you went to this event this weekend at York Hall where they sort of like combined grime music, drill music with boxing. How did it go? How was the concept? Good time, good boxers on the show?
Yeah, like you said there, it kind of incorporated that music element. Yeah, the boxing was good, white collar event, so we didn't expect it to be, you know, guts galore, blood, sweat, tears, but the boxers on the night produced the goods. And yeah, credit goes to This Is Boxing, a great concept. It's their third season down at York Hall. Got some massive signature artists from the grime industry, the likes of Quail Clinch, performing. So yeah, me and Coach went down, got speaking to a few of the pros down there, Chris Congo, Isaac Chamberlain, and a few others. So yeah, great night of boxing in Am, and yeah, looking to roll on for this weekend.
Yeah, no, it really was a good event. Really interesting to see the crowd for a white collar event that took place at York Hall. I was surprised at the capacity and how many people were there. I think it was a good energy. You know, you had Spencer Fearon, who was the host, and the compare. A lot of local guys showing their sport, as Tom would have said, from your Chamberlains, Pester Juniors. So a man like Tom was very, very busy on the night, getting all the interviews, which I will say are up on our YouTube channel, so please subscribe and watch those. But yeah, it was a good event and a good way to get into fight week, as they would say.
So anyway, guys, we got a huge clash this weekend. As you know, it's one of the fight for the ages over in LA. The last time there was such a fight of this magnitude in the same arena was when Lennox Lewis fought with Klitschko, the older one. So it's one of those mega fights for the ages. Gypsy King, Tyson Fury taking on the Bronze Bomber, Deontay Wilder. And someone's all has to go. Guys, let's break this down. How do you think it's gonna go, guys?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great fight. I don't think it's going to be the explosive fight that everyone's thinking about the early rounds. I think it's going to be more of a tactical affair. Wilder's going to show something I don't think a lot of people from the wider boxing fraternity have seen before. Like we were saying off camera about his technical ability, his being a tactician and lining up that one shot, that looping right hand that he's got, kind of goes underappreciated a bit. And I think it's going to be a good fight. I'm slightly edging towards Wilder. You know, I'm a massive Fury fan. I want him to pull it off, but my head's telling me that Wilder's going to, down the stretch, possibly between 6 and 9. Fury's never competed at that level for 2.5 years now. It's been a 2.5 year layoff, last time against Klitschko. And I think, in a way, the win against Klitschko has been overrated quite a bit since then. Obviously, he has had commitments elsewhere, but Wilder's the fresher, the more momentum's with him. So I think in terms of that, those variables, I think Wilder's in the ascendancy for Saturday night.
And if we can get the opinion from the biggest Deontay Wilder fan this side of the Atlantic and within the M25, Mr. Kojo.
M1.
Within the M1. what is your views? Can we get customary bomb squad as well?
Mate, I've got a bit of the sniffles, but I'm going to do my best. Bomb squad!
Oh.
And I'll see Kenny jump out of his skin just there, so it means I've done a good job. Listen, guys, I think ultimately, you know, I've always said I think Deontay Wilder is a dangerous puncher. In regards to this fight, really, I am going to flip it back and say, who do you guys think is the underdog going into this fight?
I think it's Tyson Fury. Clearly, Tyson Fury is the underdog. Been out for a long, long time. You know, you can't really even take into account his last two fights. They're just pointless fights. You know, look at the state that he was in. You can't be that out of shape, right? And drop so much weight and not think that it's going to have some kind of impact on you, right? And not only he's not even warmed up at a domestic level, right? And he's now fighting the top heavyweight, in my opinion, besides Anthony Joshua, right? You know, putting everything to one side and just looking at it objectively like that, it doesn't look favorably upon Tyson Fury. You know, with something like this, you'd think something like experience would compensate for something like this. But again, he's got probably one of the most inexperienced coaches, in my opinion, Ben Davidson, right? You know, which probably explains the whole kind of Fred Roach coming into camp and stuff like that. So for me,
he's
looking
there
at it
on the
like
night.
that,
He's going to be in the corner on the night.
yeah, you know. So for me, this, you know, the odds seem stacked against Tyson Fury. But
we've been there before.
You know, as we've been there before with Klitschko, right? You know, the way he's defeated his mental demons, the way he's combated his physical issues, right, shows the mental strength of an incredibly strong-willed person, right? But saying that, you know, listening to Deontay Wilder this week, right, what he was saying is, well, what happened is Klitschko, Fury got into Klitschko's mind, and that's not going to happen with Wilder. And, you know, with all due respect, yeah, he did beat Klitschko, but really Klitschko did nothing in that fight, right? You know, and I think going back to your original question, for me, clearly Fury is the underdog.
Yeah, and Nam raises a good point there about you know, that inactivity at the elite level. When you step up to this level, that caliber of heavyweight, the likes of Joshua, Wilder, Ortiz, I mean, it's proofs in the pudding, really. You could say, contrary to that Fury's Wilder's the underdog because he needs to have this breakout performance. I mean, the Ortiz fight was a fight where he showed a lot of heart, he showed a lot of grit, and he got off in a you know, a dark patch to come back and win that fight. But in terms of Fury, he's got the name, he's got the mental background, you know, that sort of bit of proof in the you know, the agenda. So with that, having that combating that disparity of mental health and other commitments outside with the governing bodies, the drug implications and stuff like that, I think you have to say that Fury is the underdog going into the fight because Wilder has had the momentum. He's had the regular fights against Brazil, Spilka, Ortiz. So in terms of that, I think you kind of have to edge towards Wilder, but Fury is inactive and that has to be taken into consideration as well.
And I mean, I think for me, there was an interview, I think IFL done, where there was an interview with John Fury, and he was saying, you know, essentially if this was a fit Fury, this wouldn't even be a 50-50 fight. And the reason it's a 50-50 fight is because of Tyson and Fury's situation. But for me, I think, do you think we're giving him the most credibility purely because of the fact that he's lost all that weight? He is in fighting shape. No matter what you may say about the way he's done it, he's in fighting condition. You're looking at his body now. He's probably going to be near the Klitschko sort of weight. For me, I'm just like, what is it about Fury? And we have to say it's his ability to talk, but also we know that Wilder isn't the technically sound fighter that we really expect. Yeah. And I think that kind of makes it a little bit of a 50-50 in terms of either fighter has a chance. But, you know, ultimately I am going with Wilder, and I'll say why. But, you know, for me, this is going to be a really intriguing matchup because it's going to see where Fury is. And I think it's harsh to also kind of write off the Klitschko fight as well because, you know, nobody was expecting Fury to do anything, and he beat him. He went into his backyard and he's beat him. So he's got form of being able to do this. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this fight. I
mean, for me, this fight is about reactions.
Yeah.
Right? If I had to literally break it down, it'd be reaction time, right? Can Fury react quick enough to move away from Deontay Wilder's heavy punches? Or can Deontay Wilder react quick enough to catch Fury? Right, it's literally that. Because if Wilder doesn't do that, he will get outboxed by Fury.
Exactly.
Right, But then the question then boils down to Fury's fitness levels, right?
Yeah.
If Wilder piles under pressure for 4, 5, 6 rounds, and we know if he keeps on coming forward, Fury will constantly have to circle. He'll be circling, he'll be going around, he's going to be on the back foot, he's going to keep out of range, right? What's going to happen after 5 or 6 rounds, right? And the thing is, he's hit fight in shape, right? But you can't detract from the fact, right? That would have had long-term, impact on someone's ability to operate at the elite level. I mean, give you an example, man. Look at the Conor McGregor fight with Khabib, right? Out for 2 years. I mean, the guy was destroyed, right? Drinking 3-4 weeks before the fight. These things, these tiny things,
especially at the elite level,
have an impact, man. Like, I remember being at Vegas, right, and I was having a cigarette, and Badu Jack walked past me, right, and he kind of said to me, "Man, can you throw the cigarette away?" Because the smoke was. These guys, they think at that level, man.
Yeah, that is very true.
Yeah. So imagine they're thinking about a bit of smoke, right? How like dropping down from 25 stones down to ages of 7 or 8 stone drop, right? I think he probably should have had another 2-3 fights. Start off at domestic level, then go into European level. And I mean,
that definitely would have been better and to sell it. I think the other thing with Fury though, and this is I think why it's like his equalizer is. We know that he's got great ability, or the perception is he's really skillful. Also, the perception is he's actually a challenge to Deontay Wilder in terms of size, reach. So these are things where you say, well, actually, is Wilder going to be able to outbox Fury? I don't see that, no matter what. And I do see Fury outboxing him throughout the fight. I think the key thing for me is, and it might do Wilder a disservice, is his power. And when his power lands, even if it's on the arms, on the body shot, how will Fury to react when it's round 8, round 9?
I just want to quickly cover on this technical aspect of Deontay Wilder, because I picked out from Mike Costello and Steve Bunce's podcast, right? Deontay Wilder, he won the bronze medal at the Olympics, okay? Yes. The guy that beat him, right, went on to defeat Alexander Usyk, right? And then the guy that eventually won the Olympics, subsequently, so the guy that eventually won beat the guy that beat Usyk, right? And after the Olympics, I think it was some kind of world championship, Deontay Wilder beat that guy, right? So they got a saying, right? You got to have grade to operate at that level.
Exactly.
At the amateur class, right? If you're not technically sound, you cannot operate at that level. So I don't think we can just say Wilder's technically poor, man.
I know that.
I mean, he might not look right, but look at his fight with Ben Stevenson, the first fight.
Exactly.
He was pure technical boxing, right? He fought behind the jab and just outpointed Stevenson over 12 rounds.
His body. I mean, remember Stevenson, I think, was in hospital for about 2 months or so.
So just to just to quickly put everything on its head, right? What if Wilder tries to outbox Fury? Has anyone considered that?
No, but I think as well you've got to take into consideration is Wilder possibly hiding something that we haven't seen before? When he's had opponents like Ortiz, he's had the opponents like Brazil. Stevenson came in at least 25. Possibly 25 kilos overweight. He was able to stand in the pocket, take shots from Wilder. And I think that suits Wilder to perfection because when he has a mover, he struggles. You've seen with Ortiz, a mover, when he's able to, evade shots, move at angles, Wilder finds it hard to find the target. But against the likes of Spilker, against Stevenson, where they're a bit more,
flat-footed.
Yeah, flat-footed, tucked up in the pocket. He's able to tee off on him. And
then
when
he
you land...
Clearly to catch Fury, right, it's going to have to be, for me, it's going to have to be in the second half of the fight. Because to catch Fury, right, to get that kind of power off, obviously he has to plant his feet. That's what he says. He's got his feet so firmly planted that when he throws his punch, he literally takes off, right? Yeah. So if someone like Fury is constantly moving, he's not going to be able to plant himself, right? This is why I was saying it goes back to reactions for me, right? So the second half of the fight, Fury's a bit tired, right? His reaction time's not going to be as quick. That's the only time he's going to catch him. If that doesn't happen, and in my opinion, if Fury is truly fit and to be fit over 12 rounds, I think he wins, and he wins quite comprehensively, in my opinion. I think he will school Wilder. Yeah. Right? And hopefully he does it. I mean, I'm really hoping Fury does this one,
Yeah. I mean, so Tom, I'll let you go.
I was just going to ask, do you think possibly Fury, throughout the 12-round distance, do you think he has the power to trouble Wilder at any stage of the fight?
I'll be honest, no. and I think he can outbox him and potentially hurt him by keep landing jabs and then coming in with the odd big right. But I don't think Wilder is the type of boxer that will allow Fury to do that. If I'm being truthful as well, so I don't think he's got the power to hurt him. I think he's got the ability to outbox him, and that's kind of like the real trump card for Fury. You were talking about how Wilder generates his power. He needs to be a bit planted into the ring, wherever it is. I do think Fury's going to expose that, and he's going to move around. I was thinking about what game plan Wilder should employ, and I think it has to be, or I would imagine they're really only going to wait to knock him out later on in the fight. Yeah. Because whatever we say, this is a real test for Fury in terms of being able to go some distance at this level, at a guy that is also going to hunt you. Because the one thing with the Klitschko fight, for example, he didn't pressure Fury as much, and I don't think he definitely didn't let his hands go as much. So Wilder, if he gets to the 8th, 9th round and he knows he's losing on the cards, anything can happen. And the other thing with Wilder is how many guys has he faced has he not knocked down? Yeah, everybody. And I think he's knocked down everybody that he's faced. So that just says to me, can Fury evade for a full 12 rounds? I don't think so.
And I think as well, Wilder's proved himself to box on the front foot. Fury's going to back off. He's going to try and get him onto the ropes, then spin off him like he has done against Safari and Pianetta in his last 2 fights. But I think just wanted to raise one thing. I was watching the Trisdiction BT Sport documentary the other day, and he was talking about how when Fury's backed onto the ropes and Wilder's coming forward, how he's able to kind of, use that space, that close space, then to, edge Wilder in and then move off. But I think as well, it's going to play into Wilder's hands if he's able to stamp his authority, box on the front foot, be aggressive, because Fury has been susceptible to, letting his hands drop, and it is kind of his worst detriment, really, against that elite fighter, that he hasn't had to have a high guard. He's been dropping his hands low. But when Wilder does, because I think as well, when Wilder lands that right hand, it tends to be sort of a looping one over the top. So whether or not Fury's able to, at that split second, evade it, I'm not too sure. I think down the stretch, when he gets tired, he's going to get a little bit more careless with his movement, and the feet possibly could slow him up. Whether or not, like we were saying about the 12-round distance, whether or not he's able to maintain that upper body movement, I'm not too sure. And I think if he is starved of oxygen, the way Wilder's able to touch him on the shoulders and really drain his body throughout the fight, particularly between the 6 and 9 round stage, I think it could play into Wilder's hands more and more.
Just one final point before we go on to the next question. When Fury was fighting Klitschko, right, the one thing for me that I felt Fury would win that fight was Klitschko had always fought fighters smaller than him, right? It was always hook, a jab. If someone gets past the jab, hook. If they get past the hook, clinch, right? Yeah. And I thought he won't be able to do that with Fury, because Fury's bigger than him. Fury's got a bigger reach than him. He can't do it, and that's what happened. That surely, for me, is going to be another factor in this fight, right? Fury again. Wilder is facing someone that's bigger than him for the first time. When has Wilder fought someone that's actually bigger than him?
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
Washington,
Brazil.
He didn't fight Brazil.
Washington.
But again, he outboxed him. He was getting outboxed. And then it was the equalizer. So and this is what I mean with Fury. I don't think, he can be totally written off, because I agree, the size will play into this. And the reason I say that is the ability to nick rounds. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? So if he can be very evasive, actually by the 10th round, if Wilder's not able to land a punch on him, it's going to be disheartening for Wilder. Do you see what I mean?
And he could already be 9-10 rounds in the bag.
And the two fights that I saw draw confidence from is the Spilka fight and Washington. Yeah. Right, and those guys, they were outboxing Wilder for long periods of the fight.
Exactly. But everybody, and so I agree with you. But most people do. Apart from Stevenson in both fights, I would say even Ortiz fight, Wilder was getting outboxed. Yeah, I think, and then especially for the first 3 or 4 rounds, and then he landed a right, and then Ortiz was more or less saved by the bell, and then Ortiz came back. He was able to regroup. And then he started taking the momentum, almost finished Wilder, and then Wilder came back. So I think it's kind of given that he's going to be the less technically gifted boxer
You know,
in the ring.
at some point, right, that killer punch lets you down. You can't go on and just rely on that one punch power. And this just might be it, guys. Anyway, to the next question, right? The winner of this fight, does it solidify them as the #1 heavyweight on the planet?
No, I don't. I feel it's a fight where it's shown the best are fighting the best. AJ's obviously waiting for that April 13th date, whether it be against a Miller, against a White. But I just think the last 12 to 18 months, the caliber of opponent that AJ's faced, Klitschko, Takam after the Pulev.
I won't just. Yeah, okay.
I understand that Wilder's, he's got his chance.
I'm not rating his
really
CV even higher. Sorry, carry on.
So in terms of I think you basing this just in my opinion off the caliber of opponent that AJ's faced. He's got the 3 world title belts, and that kind of shows the proportion that he has over the heavyweight division. I'm not disputing that this fight could, there is an argument to say that Wilder would be the #1 heavyweight. He's got the coveted WBC belt. He will have faced a lineal heavyweight champion who hasn't lost his belts in the ring. So from that perspective, you can definitely argue that Wilder's the #1. But I think at the moment, in terms of the caliber of opponent and who AJ's faced back-to-back and consecutively unified the division, you'd have to say AJ at this moment in time.
And you, Coach? What do you think?
So for me, it is a tough one. I think I agree. The points that Tom made, I think you're right. You just have to look at the belts that are being held and would say, well, actually, the #1 heavyweight is Joshua. But I just can't help but feel that this is a fight where 2 heavyweight boxers, which is the epitome of boxing in terms of the real crowd drawer, are facing each other and are taking a risk in doing so. So Fury doesn't have to come back. Most people would say he's mad to come back and face Wilder. So that shows the level that Wilder's at. And for Wilder, he doesn't have the CV to kind of say, to compare himself to Joshua in such a way. He has the belt, but not the CV. So it's like he's also taking a huge risk. And I just look at Joshua and I just feel, are you really taking a risk with Povetkin? Not in my opinion. Okay, Parker was a belt, an opportunity to win a belt, but was it a huge risk? I would say no. And Takam, we know 100% wasn't a risk. And then I look at the performances alongside those fights and say, well, actually, was Joshua, did the KO show continue that he referred to? And I didn't think it was in the same devastating fashion. No. So I think there's an argument to be had that actually this fight is going to produce the biggest world champion in heavyweight division at the moment. And I think they have the right to demand a 50-50 with Joshua. They might not get it. They will settle for 60-40. But I think whoever wins this fight can say, listen, I've taken on a big name here. Like, Joshua, what are you going to say about this now?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the Takam fight was that stage where he'd had the glory of beating Klitschko at Wembley, and everyone expected him to produce against a caliber of opponent like Takam. You'd expect 6-7 rounds, and he didn't produce the goods. He wasn't up to scratch. So then I think that performance then kind of was a bit. He might have exerted a lot of energy in that camp. He was preparing for Pulev. Pulev pulled out, so Takam was the replacement. But then if you're looking, a star-studded performer like AJ, who's used to getting that explosive knockout, casual fans, wider boxing fans expect a brutal knockout. And when he's not producing it, then the criticism then becomes more apparent that he hasn't delivered up to the expectations.
Yeah, but I mean, let's just break this all down, right? So, again, the superstardom came from the Klitschko fight, okay? But let's break it down, right? Klitschko, 41-year-old guy, was out of the ring for 2 years, over 2 years. Prior to that, was dethroned by Tyson Fury, the man himself, the man who's fighting this weekend, right? And to be honest, right, Klitschko, it was a life and death fight for both of them. Right? If this was 5-6 years ago, or if they were matched evenly in terms of age or maybe 5-year difference, I think Klitschko would have won comprehensively.
Because he was the better technically fighter on the night.
Far better. His technical abilities, what got him through all those rounds, right? And it was basically AJ's youth that ultimately got him the win, right? Then you look at Takam fight, didn't stop him. And then you look at Chisora, the way Chisora stopped Takam, and what does that show, right? Parker, I mean, do if you really look at this objectively, is that a good win, right? What did Parker truly do? He won a vacant belt fighting Andy Ruiz.
Yeah, and then if you look at his defensive, Kajanu, who's fighting soon,
Dubois, right?
Dubois.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at that, I mean, Parker beating the likes of Kajanu, merely a sparring partner,
Yeah.
you'd think,
Yeah.
and going the 12-round distance. Can you really legitimise that as
I mean,
a
don't get me
opponent?
wrong, right? AJ is representing the UK, no doubt about that, right? You know, and then he fought Povetkin again. How Povetkin was entitled to get that shot, especially at a time when that basically dethroned the negotiations with Deontay Wilder, a fight that most objective boxing fans would want, right? You know, you line it up like that. It's not really a star-studded resume, right? Wilder, of course, everyone criticizes his resume, but look, he's fought Ortiz, who's in a lot of people's opinions, he's the third or fourth best heavyweight on the planet. Yeah. He's now fighting Tyson Fury, who's the lineal heavyweight, right?
No matter what you say
So,
about his conditioning, he is the lineal
irrespective, right?
champion.
You know, you can see the man is campaigning to fight the best heavyweights, right?
Taking massive risks
And
with it as well.
taking massive risks. After this fight, right? If we get this kind of fixed fee nonsense again from Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, to me that's a duck, right? After a fight of this, if Deontay Wilder comprehensively beats Fury with a sickening knockout, especially early in the fight, look, man, they're going to just have it equally, right? You know, forget 50-50, but 60-40. You can't be doing this kind of fixed fee stuff because that is a blatant duck. Come on, there's no doubt
And
about
at this
that.
level, I think from the business side, if Wilder was to get the early knockout, which I wouldn't be surprised at seeing either, then I think for me, it has to be 60. It has to be 60-40, and I think they have to get away from this fixed fee, and they have to realize this is now a global fight in a massive arena, which is Wembley. And I think also, you're talking about the Joshua thing. I think the backstory potentially, no matter what, whoever wins this fight, I think the backstory is going to start to affect him because this fight's going to take place. There will be a winner. And then when they say, well, now what about Joshua? If Wilder wins, the first thing they will be bringing up is the offer. The offer. He asked for 50 mil. We made it 80 mil in a rematch, 2-fight deal, and they turned it down. So I think for me, that's going to affect him slightly. But, I really think we should get away from trying to talk about Joshua for now. Yeah. I think, Hearn's done his best to try and downplay this fight. I mean, I would even argue and say that's probably why he's made the White Chisora on the same day as the Warrington-Frampton, because this is the biggest fight of this year. You can see the promotion. I'm telling you, within the next couple of days, people are going to be tuning into this fight. People are going to be getting ready and say, what am I doing for Wilder versus Fury? And they're going to be on it. And I just hope we get a show to match that. But what about the undercard, guys? I mean, what's your thoughts on some of the guys that are fighting on? I mean, it's a properly stacked card. We've got Joyce, Ortiz, Jarrett Hurd. What any of those guys you're looking forward to seeing? What do you think about Luis Ortiz in his fight?
Yeah, I'm a massive fan of Jarrett Hurd. I think I'm looking forward to see him against the Charlos when it does materialise. But no, hats off to Jason Wellborn for getting the shot at the unified titles, and especially since winning the British, beating Tommy Langford twice. Why not? Hats off to him. Why not? He gets his dream day in LA, and why not? I mean, Jarrett Hurd, obviously the caliber, amateur level, and now the fact that he's got such a imposing size on the division, massive light middleweight boiling down from cruiserweight. It's ridiculous how he makes 154 pounds. But
I mean, if I were to summarise Jarrett Hurd, right? I mean, he's to me, he's a weight bully, right? Yeah. I mean, let's just say it straight, man. Like, I don't know how the guy makes like middleweight. I mean, and basically what happens, you see it, right? The guys that they have to keep him off of him, right? Austin Trout, people like that, constantly having to use all their power to keep the guy off, and then they're exhausted. 7-8 rounds, they are exhausted, and he just takes them out.
And the worst thing is, and like you look at the Lara fight and the Austin, it's like he's almost about to get knocked out. Hurd looks like he's on his way out, and then somehow he just, like you said, the power, the way he just absorbed whatever they're throwing at him, and he just literally just rests his whole arms over their body. It becomes a massive issue for them, because the Lara fight, although it was an impressive win, it wasn't convincing. When I say impressive with the name on your resume, but it wasn't convincing with the performance. I don't know what you guys remember of that.
Yeah, I don't think Hurd's the most naturally gifted out of the bunch at 154 pounds. I just think, like Anam said, he seems to just swarm his opponents and starve them of any space, really. And I think. I mean, looking at Hurd's physique, he's got quite long arms. He doesn't really, use his attributes like his range, his distance. But what works for him works for him. But I think when you're stepping up against the likes of Charlo, who are very good inside fighters, they're able to get up on the inside, land 3-4 combinations, and then execute those power punches to body and head. I think Hurd's going to struggle because the Lara fight epitomised that. Lara was able to get up close. Hurd had to kind of keep, grabbing on, imposing his size on the inside. But I think Charlo, is going to have too much power for him. But then it's kind of weighing up the attributes, the height, the reach, the length of Hurd against the more natural explosive power of Charlo. But it's intriguing to see these fights materialise in 2019. I do hope there is no barriers between the Charlo camp and the Hurd camp. I just want to see all 4 belts like we have done in recent months with the other divisions. So.
Yeah. What do you think about Anthony Yarde? You interviewed his trainer recently.
Tunde. Lions in the camp.
Lions in the camp. Your views
literally
are
lions in the camp.
Yeah, your view was they shouldn't be rushed, but my thought is, look, right, how much more time does Anthony Yarde need? If he's this so-called superstar, lions in the camp, as we say, at what point does he need to step up? Yeah. There's got to, at some point, he's got to step up now, right? At even domestic level, come on.
I mean, for me, at the moment, this opportunity to fight on this card, I totally understand, and I think he's going to come up against an unnamed opponent, somebody that we don't know who they are. But I would say, in my opinion, he's got to fight somebody big soon. I think. And this might sound a bit harsh, when I respect the guy, but I think Frank Buglioni retiring, I think epitomises why they were chasing that fight as opposed to the Callum Johnson and the other guy, Jose Burton, because I think those guys really are much more of a tricky customer for him. I think Buglioni is somebody that actually could have beat and then made a name for himself. But for me, I think I like Yarde, I like Tunji. I think they're coming with something fresh. I just think what we're going to see is, or they should just admit that their lack of amateur experience isn't going to fare well for them in this division. But I think he needs to go for a British title. So, this WBO belt that he claims, let's be real, what is it? Really, it's a trinket.
And I think one thing that Tunde alluded to in the interview we did together was the fact that he's not, as a manager of Tunde Ajayi, as the trainer, he's not letting all this outside influence of the media, of the fan base to dictate what path they're on. And like you said there, with the lack of amateur pedigree, these guys, Bivol, Beterbiev, they've had over 200 amateur fights. Yarde has only had 26 fights as a pro and amateur. So, it is that there is a gulp in class there. I'm not saying that Yarde would be able to compete with the likes of Beterbiev, Bivol at this stage. There's nothing to say that in the next 24 months.
Can he compete with the likes of Buatsi?
That's what I mean.
Yeah. I quite...
You could ask these questions,
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Right? He could very easily become the Deontay Wilder of the light heavyweight division.
I think that's a bit far, but... Because I know what you mean in terms of his power, but he needs to and he needs an opportunity.
Yeah, I don't mean about power. I'm talking about general resume. Yeah.
But he hasn't got a belt. I don't see him, the way they're behaving, I don't think they even want to try to fight for a belt. You see what I mean? So they're not going to be regarded, or I can't see him really, if I'm being honest, being regarded as a light heavyweight champion.
Boxing is a harsh game, right? You can push this story for so long, right? If they carry on doing the same thing for another year and a half, I think that's it. People are going to get fed up, mate. Yeah, the fans are going to move on. There's going to be better people to follow.
And and look, you're talking about that division, and we will come back to the Wilder fight, guys. Don't worry about that. But also this weekend, which is slight of a co-feature being shown out of Canada, is Stevenson versus Alexander Gvodyzk. And now this is a guy light heavyweight, Yarde's division. In my opinion, I think this is a huge risk for Stevenson. Gvodyzk is, I know I'm going to butcher his name, but for me, I think he's got a lot of talent. One of those guys, and it's an interesting strategy from the Ukrainians. They make them build up good amateur experience. He won bronze in the London Olympics. He's been focusing on his amateur career, refining his skills. Now he's a pro, 15, I think 12 knockouts. I think this is a massive opportunity for him to start pushing on in that division and actually make a name for himself because he's come through. But would Yard fight Gvodyzk? No chance.
No. And I mean, I don't personally know too much about Gvodyzk. I know, is he part of the Usyk and Lomachenko camp out in Ukraine? But yeah, like I said, not really. I mean, 15 wins, 12 knockouts is a very reputable record at the moment. But like we said, against like Yard, they're not gonna want to take those risks at world level. They're gonna have to breach that gap between domestic and world level. But do they really want those guys that are up and come in, ferocious punches?
No. And even Pacquiao, I think he's highly skilled. But even for him to make a name in that division is going to be really tough.
Yeah.
Let's not forget to give a big shout out to previous Raps on TV guests, the fight from South London, the juggernaut Joy Joyce, who's also fighting on the undercard. What did you guys make of that?
Yeah.
How do you think his career is progressing and fighting over in the Big Bear, being trained by
Abel Sanchez.
Abel Sanchez.
Yeah, I think it's the split obviously with David Hay was quite a shock to me. I thought, splitting with Haymaker Promotions, he had been carried so well up until then. I mean, even from his debut right through to where he is now, I think the move to America, to Big Bear, is probably the right move at the right time. He is going to get, top class sparring out there, and I think he needs to just kind of not necessarily fight better guys, but have competitive fights where he's able to learn a bit more about himself, use more technical ability as opposed to just swarming his opponents. That he's kind of his size, he's been able to kind of bully his opponents, especially on the small hall scene. On the Haymaker card. So I think it's an interesting period for him moving out to America, making that transition. So it'd be interesting to see how he fares out there.
For me, his opponent, and I hadn't obviously heard of the guy, and I see they're bigging it up. It is weird with Joyce because you think to yourself, okay, he's slightly testing himself. The guy's fighting's only lost twice. He's had quite a bunch of fights. Lost to Andrew Ruiz Jr. though, so you think, well, actually, how good is he really? I think for me, Joyce has to impress on Saturday night. And when I say impress, I think he needs to box for the first round at high pressure, try and show a bit of speed, and I think he has to take this guy out within the second or third round. I think that's what he needs to do because what he's trying to do is playing catch-up. I like him, he's a nice guy, but he is obviously an older boxer. And you think to yourself, who can he fight? In the next 12 months, can you see him fighting Dillian White, Ortiz? I'm not going to mention the champions, and maybe the loser of Wilder Fury.
He's got to start moving up and find at least the likes of like Takam.
Huey Fury, even.
Yeah, I don't really rate Huey Fury, but he's got to. Huey Fury, that fight against Pulev was just awful. It
wasn't great, but you can see what he was trying to do, and then he got a massive injury, so that kind of deterred him. But I think Huey Fury would ask a lot of questions of Joe Joyce.
Yeah, I like the juggernaut. I like the juggernaut. I think he needs to. Next year he's got to step it up. Maybe we'll go for a Takam. Go for a Chisora. He wanted to fight Chisora. I think they just couldn't raise enough capital to fight Chisora for what he wanted. Yeah. After if he fights those two and he does well, I think then he steps it up and moves on to likes of people like Ortiz and then goes for his world title bid.
Michael Hunter, who won on the weekend in Monaco, is a good fight for him.
Yeah.
He's a good addition.
Is that the guy that fought the giant Ustinov?
Ustinov,
yeah.
He beat Ustinov, yeah.
So that's another card that was last weekend, and Michael Hunter is a good addition to the heavy. I'm not saying he's of the caliber of Ortiz, Chisora, but it makes it competitive.
And I think that's the good thing about the heavyweight is that there's a potential for competitive fights. So just going back to the big one, what do you guys make of all these sort of like background documentaries? So you've seen the All Access shows. I think Part 2 came out last weekend. Obviously the Part 1 the previous weekend. Do you think it's shown a good insight into both of the lives of these guys? And I'll start off by saying one of the things I really liked was the story from John Fury, Tyson's dad, and he said, when he was first born, he had a lot of difficulties. He was small in size, which is quite astounding now that he's about 6'9". But he was saying the reason I called him Tyson was because of the fighting attitude. And I was getting ready to call my second son Holyfield, and the missus said no. So I like the aspect because it showed the family side. It showed that this is a history of fighting families, and I do think that plays its part into this fight. But what do you guys think of the documentaries in general?
Yeah, I mean, look, Fury. You know what the thing about this fight is? You got two huge personalities, right? I mean, someone like Wilder is thinking of becoming an actor after all of this, and he'll pull it off, right? You know, same thing with Tyson Fury. I mean, he doesn't need to sit there and think what to say. He just, he just thinks naturally. He's an orator. You know, he doesn't sugarcoat anything, and very interested to hear what he's got to say. His story, you know, highly emotional. His story is incredibly emotional, incredibly inspirational. You know, I mean, the torment that he's gone through, the mental demons that he had to battle was astonishing, right? And he's a source of inspiration for a lot of people. And it's that battle that he's faced and the adversities that he's come through that I really want to see him pull it off and win. You know, because it will be, you know, it will be a signal for so many people. Like there's lots of downtrodden people out there, and for me, I think Tyson Fury represents that now. You know,
and I think that's a great element, and that's why I think this documentary has been good, because I think they both represent something. Wilder's is more about what you do as a father when your daughter's sick and how you say to yourself, I need to provide for them. I'm going to do what it's taking. You go out and do one of the most probably dangerous sports going, and you better your craft and you get great achievements like the Olympic bronze medal and you acquire the WBC belt. And I think, you know, this for him is what is going to make him have that transition element into a crossover star. I'm not saying he deserves it more than Fury at all, but I think I like the way that's been portrayed in both of these documentaries. That, you know what, these are two honest, as you say, big personalities, ready to speak how they want, and they're going to clash. And actually, the fact that they're undefeated, they're both going in with their O's, makes it a lot more intriguing, because then you're saying, why would Fury risk his O when he doesn't have to? Do you see what I mean?
If Fury wins, right, it is literally a Hollywood movie.
Yeah,
100%.
I mean, you cannot make this up, right? Guy born who's highly likely to die, somehow gets past that, survives. You know,
he has nothing to lose in this fight.
You know,
he's beaten all those demons.
You know, he for years he was evaded by Klitschko. You know, after the second Chisora fight, it was mandatory for the
David Haye.
You know, exactly. You know, he got let down by David Haye multiple times, and then, you know, challenge after challenge after challenge. You know, mandatory after mandatory after mandatory. He finally gets his opportunity to fight Klitschko, becomes undisputed. You know, forget the one belt that Deontay Wilder held. You know, he was literally, you know, he's the unified lineal heavyweight champion of the world, right? You know, and within the next day, literally, he got, you know, the stripped of the IBF belt, because I'm pretty sure there's another story behind that. You know, that's where our heroes got his belt from. You know,
Glasgow, Charles Martin, phantom injury.
You know, phantom injury, Charles Martin, $5 million, you know, dressing up like Ali, you know, walking down like Ali with a white robe, and, you know, right.
But I get you enough. I definitely
so
get
anyway,
your
the point I'm trying to make is, you know, he wins, he becomes heavyweight champion of the world, you know. Immediately, you can just feel like people trying to tear the guy down. They strip him of his belt. The media turn on him. You know, he made homophobic slurs. You know, he was on BBC Personality of the Year. You know, the public turned on him. Pulled that, you know, pushed him off BBC Sports Personality of the Year. He starts getting depressed. He balloons in weight, starts taking cocaine, and he's all over the place.
And I think one thing as well, when you look back and all those people that did ridicule within the media, outside the media, who ridiculed Fury, was given that BBC personality role, they're probably going to look back now and think, wow, he's lost 7-8 stone in what? A 7-month period?
In a year.
And they're probably the ones that are going to be his first point of credibility. So
well,
it's kind of
I don't think. See, I think Fury is the kind of, you know, he is a man of credibility, right, and integrity, right. You know, I don't think that's why you see him with people like Good Morning TV and stuff like that. I've not seen him do a deep interview with the BBC, because they were, for me, very much responsible for what happened to him, right? And you know what, man? Look, he faced some serious demons, and how he changed that round, right, to be in this position again, right? I mean, if he pulls you off, it is remarkable.
And you know what the funny thing is? Again, going back to the documentaries, they show you the behind the scenes of when he invaded the ring after the Wilder Spilker fight. And when you look at it, I don't know if you've seen any of this footage, you look at it, you can quite clearly see he was off his rocker.
He's off his rocker,
The eyes, he's rubbing his nose, like his mouth is, and you're like, wow. And I remember saying this guy was fucking drinking like a maniac, and he was doing crazy things. So if you remember, in the Euros, he went over to France when the Euros were held in 2016, I think, and started buying rounds for whole bars. Like all the English football fans are out there just buying them rounds of drinks.
Wasn't just buying them Nando's, just
well,
buying
exactly.
them.
But I think again, this is what makes him, and this is the persona or the personality element that has him able to walk through Manchester after one of his fights. And about 2,000 people were singing "There's Only One Tyson Fury."
Yeah.
And I respect Joshua so much, but I don't know if he would do that. I'm not saying he wouldn't get that reaction, but I just want to see that. I want to see him just being able to walk freely and not worry about what contracts is going to be signed. But anyway,
I think as well, Josh was more of a billboard star where you kind of walk through London. If you saw him on the billboard, you're like, oh, that's AJ. But with Fury, he hasn't really got that. Not necessarily credibility, but within casual fan base, people that see him, he hasn't got the appearance. I don't think
he doesn't have the commercial value of AJ, that's for sure. But he does have, in my opinion, the fan base to match. And I would even argue if he was to fight Joshua, I think Joshua would be not booed, so to speak, but I think a lot of the fans would be backing Fury. And I think
don't know, man. I mean, like, if you follow a lot of the Facebook boxing groups, right, you know, I always find that, I'll say 75 to 80% of the fans, right, they ripping into Fury still. Okay. Right? Still they're ripping into him, and you know, everyone's just like AJ loving. You know, it's you know, it's a real fanboy culture we got. You know, people have become fans of a fighter and even a promotional outfit. Right? People are now supporting promotional outfits rather than the sport. You know. So I'll be very surprised, because you've got to bear in mind the kind of, I mean, Joshua is the media darling, mate, right? Olympic gold medalist, chiseled, right? You know, 6'7",
oiled
right?
Up and,
oiled up, you know, battered Klitschko into the ground. Right, I mean, he is, you know, he is the media darling. Look, and you can see Hugo Boss is sponsoring him, like a Range Rover, giving him like the top of the range. You know, what I'm trying to say. Yeah, you're not suddenly that's not going to change, is it? You know.
Yeah, and I think I see what your point, but yeah, I'll be interested to see how that works out. So yeah, just talking on the fight. I see we've got a caller, so I'm going to open up the line 012 012. Hello. How you doing? You good?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you well, mate.
How's it going, Joe? It's Tom here.
Hi, mate. You all right?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Good, yeah. Sound, mate.
Good, man.
How you doing, Joe? You all right? It's an M.
All right, Anam. How you doing?
Yeah, good, mate. Good.
Like a meet and greet, this, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. A long time. Mate, I see your custom-made shorts on Conor Ben.
I heard Fowler's got a few sponsored T-shirts for you as well. I think he's sent them in the post.
Oh boy, you're too nice to me. Thank you.
But anyway, Joe, back to the
studio.
Anyway, Joe, back to the boxing. Just going to get your thoughts on the fight this weekend, and then we're just going to ask you a few other topics that have kind of circulated. But yeah, what's your take on the whole promotion of Fury Wilder, and what's your prediction for Saturday?
To be honest, I've not really caught up with it. I've been a bit tied up, so I've not really caught up with any of the build-up, the BT shows and stuff. But I am planning to do so this week. Not that any of it will change my outlook on the fight or anything like that, but obviously it's just good to get a bit of a buzz for it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But in terms of like a prediction, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think Fury will stop him. I don't think he'll chin him, but I think he'll just, you know, like when Wilder misses and he goes all off balance with his chin in the air and things, and I think Fury will take advantage of that, tie him up, lean on him, wrestle him, and generally really, you know, start to sap his energy, and then like down the stretch, I think he might put him away on his feet potentially, but I think either the towel will come in or the ref might look to stop it.
So with that prediction of a late stoppage possibly, do you see, we were discussing it in the studio before we opened the lines up, but do you see Wilder being, you know, troubled by any of Fury's power? Do you think Fury contains power that could possibly give him a bit of trouble during the early rounds going into the mid phase of the fight?
Yeah, well, I think Fury might have to overcome a couple of tricky patches. Maybe not sure whether or not he'll get dropped, but I think he might get wobbled a couple of times. Obviously, wait and see. But I don't think Fury's got the power to hurt Wilder as such. But I just think Wilder's only 15 stone, and if he falls off balance or squares up and he gets clipped on the chin by a bloke who's nearer 19 stone, he's going to feel it, isn't he? And especially if he's fatigued and stuff down the stretch. And like I say, that's where I think the ref might think, I've seen too much here. Do you know what I mean? Like, I honestly believe if Wilder came to me with his chin in the air like that and I give him a clip, I'd probably shake his legs a bit. I think most people would.
Yeah.
Do you think Fury can avoid Wilder for 12 rounds?
No, I don't know. That's what I mean, mate. I think he's going to have to overcome a couple of tricky patches, but I actually don't think Wilder's good enough.
No, so Joe, when I say avoid him for 12 rounds, I'm saying, will he get knocked out?
You saying no?
No, I don't think he will.
Okay, so you reckon what, Fury would just completely make him miss for 12 rounds, yeah?
No, I think there'll be times when he does have to go in the pocket with him and things, and like I say, shift a bit of punishment, and he might have to overcome a tricky spell. But
in the pocket, I think, right? I think if they're fighting in the pocket, Fury will have an advantage over Wilder, man, because he's going to be so much bigger.
That's what I'm
so
saying,
much bigger.
And everything. Yeah, man, exactly.
You know, not only height wise, but in terms of weight. So I think Wilder ain't going to want to fight him in the pocket, mate. You know, he's going to try keep it at kind of like medium range and try and knock him out, you know. So I think, there's lots of, only disadvantage I think that Fury's got is the long layoff, the drop in weight, the drug habit, and, something that we haven't really covered is the inexperienced coaching. You know, what effect do you think not having an experienced coach will have on this fight?
Do you know what? When it first got announced, I think I might have tweeted it at the time or something, but I'd be a lot more confident picking Fury had Peter been in his corner. Just because of like the family thing and he gets him fired up and all that sort of thing. But I don't know, like he said he needed the change, and I don't know about you, but everything I've seen of Fury in the gym and things you've heard, he looks like he's on fire. And I don't know, you just can't, when he talks, he's just so captivating. And you look at the way he's shifted and everything, I can't see past him. There's just something, this energy radiates from him. Do you know what I mean? When you're watching him and things.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love it. For me, it's just such a kind of, someone who's down and just down and out and just, just comes back. It's just an amazing story. Rising from the flames, rising of the phoenix. Exactly.
So listen, Joe, we're going to move on to the next caller. But I appreciate that. Appreciate your opinion and calling in. And hopefully
log it, mate. Fury stoppage.
Yeah, we've got it logged, mate. And hopefully next week you'll call in once the fight's done. All right, take it easy, mate.
With a bit more money in my bank because I've put a bet on it.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that next week.
Take it easy.
Rounds on you. All right, take it easy, mate.
Guys.
Cheers,
see you later.
Cheers, thanks for
care.
calling in.
Cheers,
thanks. Going out to 985. 985. Hello.
How we doing, fellas?
Yes.
Mr. Appiah. Dan, you know what I want to hear, man? I want to hear that woof woof. Come on. Come on, mate.
Oh, let's fucking have it then.
Come on. There you go. President Appiah is in the house.
So what's going on? So what's on your mind, mate? Big weekend taking place this big fight this weekend.
Yes. Massive fight. Really looking forward to it. I can only see one winner, gentlemen. Only one winner this weekend.
Yeah, who's that?
Tyson Fury.
Get in. Why is that?
I'm just going for his style, the way he fights. I just think he'll be just too much for Deontay Wilder, who's a good fighter himself. But I think Fury's just too much of a match for him. Moves well for a big man. I just think he'll outbox him on the night, to be fair. And I think Tyson Fury will win on points.
If Fury beats him, presumably Wilder's going to go for his rematch clause, because without that belt, he's not going to get that fight with Joshua, is he? Let's be real.
Oh, he's not going to get it for a substantial amount of money. I think that's the real point. I think he could get the fight, but not for anything. I think he'll probably get 15 million, maybe. If that. I don't know. Daniel, what do you think?
I think whoever wins this fight should fight Joshua, to be honest with you. And Tyson Fury wins, I'd like to see him fight Joshua. And I think he beats Joshua as well, but that's for later on. But for Saturday, to be honest with you, gents, I can only see one winner. I can't see past Tyson Fury.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, no worries, Daniel. Thank you very much for calling in. Look forward to seeing the fight this weekend and getting your feedback next week. So thanks for calling in.
All right.
Cheers, thanks.
Moving
Dan. On to the next caller, 419. 419. Hello.
Now then, lad, how's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Is that Paul Olsai?
Hey?
Is that Paul?
No, it's Craig.
Oh, how you doing, Craig? How's everything going?
I'm all right.
Is new caller? Is there a new caller?
We've got a new caller in the building.
Yeah,
new caller, aye. So
Brilliant.
everyone's on about Fury not having this knockout power. But let's not forget, he knocked out 26 amateurs and 21 professionals, a lot of who were bigger than Wilder.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Do you want to allude on sort of, because we were discussing in the studio, Craig, before we went on camera, talking about whether Fury does carry enough power to disrupt Wilder, to be able to impose himself. Obviously, 6'9" stature. Wilder's never faced someone of that height and reach and elusiveness. Do you think, in terms of taking all the mobility away from it, do you think Fury can cause him any trouble with that power?
It'll cause him mass amounts of trouble, I think. I think the early rounds, they'll stand off each other. Fury will drain Wilder's energy from him and then start landing power shots from the 6th or 7th. And with Wilder's ridiculously open guard, I think he could end up in trouble.
See, Craig, I sort of adhere to that point as well. And the reason I think it might not be power. I think it's the size disparity between the two, right? You know, I mean, I would think Fury would be at least 1 or 2 stones heavier than Wilder on the night itself, you know. And that kind of weight difference, right, when it lands on you, right, and it lands on you with good technique, you know, it will have a serious impact. I mean, if Fury wants to go for it and hurt Wilder, I think he's more than capable of hurting Wilder. There's no doubt about that, you know.
Fury's going to be nearly 4 stone heavier than Wilder.
4 stones, there you go. Like, can you? I mean, just imagine that, mate. 4 stone extra weight coming landing on your chin with mean intent. It could happen, you know. What's the chances, Craig? What do you think is going to happen? Is it going to be a knockout win or a points win for Fury?
I say it is 75-25 in favour of Fury, because Fury can outbox Wilder easily, and he can bang as well, where all Wilder can do is bang. He's not going to outbox Fury. So Wilder has the puncher's chance still.
Yeah.
He's still got a chance. I'm not going to write the man off completely. But Wilder's other claim is he's put every person to sleep. Well, that's not true. I've watched every single one of his professional fights, and although he's ended the fights, a lot of them have been referee stoppages, and the people are still awake. And I think Fury will be more durable than most of them people. So,
I mean, do you think, you know, the fact that Fury's been out for such a long time, you know, 2 years, and, you know, the dropping in so much weight, do you think that's going to impact his punch resistance at all?
No. Because Fury's a natural fighter. He was born to fight, if you like. Some people just have it. That's the fact. Some people are just born fighters. They have it in the heart, and I don't think it'll affect resistance. Whether it affects stamina or not, and I don't know. But in terms of how resilient Fury will be to the onslaught, I don't think it'll have a major effect on him.
Craig, thank you very much for calling. Where are you calling in from, mate?
Near Sunderland.
Ah, nice.
So listen, mate, thank you for calling in, Craig. I hope you call in next week once the fight's over, whether your prediction is right or wrong. But I appreciate the support. Thanks again as we move on to the next caller.
Big up the Northeast.
Big up. So moving on to 081. 081, the floor is yours. Hello.
What's going on, lads? Nicholas here.
How's it going, Nicholas?
How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm all right, man. How you guys doing? Good?
We are very good, Nicholas. Very disappointed in a couple of your friends not dialing in.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's easy to talk back while texting, but you know, a
Texting
live
is one
debate
thing.
is a little
When it's
bit.
live and you can't Google, it's something else.
Yeah,
Keyboard gangsters. yeah.
Keyboard warriors.
Keyboard-
That's what you call a keyboard warrior.
This is
You
the
know,
warrior
sending
code.
little
Respond on the
gifts.
spot, man.
Let me send you a
Anytime
brick top
they can't
gift.
respond on the
Send
spot.
him a brick top gift.
So listen, Nicholas, what's going on?
Yo.
What's your thoughts for this weekend's fight? Wilder versus Fury. What's your take?
Man, I think it's going to be a great fight. I'm very intrigued. Obviously, you know, because one is such a good boxer and the other one is a knockout artist. So, you think maybe, you know what, if Fury can avoid a knockout punch, he may just win it by points, which makes it very interesting. But is he really going to avoid those heavy blows for 12 rounds? It's a tricky one. So, my prediction, I think, is going to be very similar to the Ortiz fight. Fury's probably going to win a lot of the earlier rounds, and it's probably going to be winning by points. But as we get to the later rounds, I think as it starts to slow down, Wilder's is a very fit guy. I think he's going to start landing, and probably around between the 7th and the 9th round, he'll probably take him out. That's my prediction.
And Nicholas,
I just can't see Fury ducking and punching for 12 rounds.
Yeah.
Cleanly.
Do you think that level of intensity throughout the 12-round distance is going to cause Fury? Do you think he's going to have to go through dark patches in the fight? We know Wilder carries that explosive, unprecedented power, and he's proven it at the elite level. Do you think Fury's going to have to ride the wave in this fight if he is going to cruise to a points victory?
He has to. He's definitely going to be slowing down. It's definitely going to be some punches are going to land. So for him to win this, he definitely for a couple of rounds is going to have to ride a wave, just absorb a few punches, you know, if he can, and just fight off the ropes basically, and trying to get Wilder to tire out a little bit, and then go back on the attack eventually. But
man, if someone like Steve Cunningham, right, can catch Fury. That guy, the other guy I think is Nevin, right? For some guy called Nevin or Nevan, right? Early on in his career, that guy dropped him. And of course, Fury nearly dropped himself, right? If that can happen, then, I think we can say with some reasonable comfort that Wilder is probably going to catch him at some stage. The question is, at this stage, if what previous caller Craig was saying, with the 4-stone weight advantage, right? Would that be able to soak up that kind of, punching power? Would be interesting to see on the night.
One thing I would say, and it is true what he was saying, but what we have to remember with weights is, you look at Ortiz, you would argue that Ortiz was probably about 4 or 5 stone heavier than Wilder, because I think he came in probably his lightest to date. What happened there? So it is true, weight can play its part. I think for me, the key thing with Fury is the weight and the height. So I think that ability to clinch, especially when he's just stealing the rounds in terms of jabbing, moving, holding him, I think that's going to play well for Fury as well.
There's no way, right, Wilder can fight Fury close up or in the pocket. That's just not going to work, right?
I'm very surprised.
Right, that's just not going to happen, right?
At
long range, Wilder can't fight him because I think Fury's just not only because of his longer reach, but his technical ability, so Wilder can't catch him. So for me, Wilder can only beat Fury at one range, and that's medium range, right? And that will come via trying to knock him out. Yeah. So, Fury's a smart guy. All he has to do is just focus on, for me, if he just maintains the range, he wins.
See, for me, I think the one thing where I'm a bit intrigued about the pocket is if Wilder hunts, and it's the aggression that Wilder brings to this ring that is going to be interesting, because Fury is probably one of the tallest opponents he's faced. He's faced a few tall guys, but he's the tallest one. Is he going to be able to move forward with his feet intact? And when I say that, is it going to be smooth? Is it going to be silky? And that's where I see the doubts. But I also see him with his speed, and he's been doing these little crazy things in his little pad workout. I see him just steaming him at certain points in the fight. And it's whether, and again, that game plan is later on in the fight, lose the rounds.
He does ridiculous thing where he almost like runs with the punch. Like he's running towards you with the punch,
spins,
He spins towards you.
It's awkward, and that's the key thing about both of these guys. They're both awkward fighters, and I think Deontay Wilder's awkwardness plus his power, and yes, the Fury inactivity.
But don't forget, right?
Is what is going to help him.
When you're rushing in like that, right? You're rushing in. And you got a man who's got 4 stone weight advantage over you. Bit of good technique, bang.
You can pick him off.
Easily go down, mate.
I mean, I don't know about the going down, but we're going to soon find out. Put it that way. But I think he can easily pick him off. I just think it's that later round when Wilder, we've seen he can keep that intensity going. It's how Fury reacts. But listen, Nicholas, thank you for calling in. Look forward to hearing your getting your views next week once this fight has taken place. But enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, Nicholas.
Yeah, you too, guys. Have a nice one, guys.
Cheers, thank you. So so that's the votes from the call. So guys, let's do a round robin of our own predictions. Tom, I'm going to start with you. Put you on the spot, mate.
I'm going to go for a Fury close points victory.
Okay,
I want to go for a Fury win, and I'm going to go for.
Go for one.
A knockout, man. Fury knockout. Fury knockout.
So
there you go.
Without a doubt, I will say I started picking Fury, but for me, I just don't see Fury being able to take any of the power later on in the round. I'm going later on in the fight. Sorry, I'm going for a Wilder stoppage, and looking forward to it. The whole card as a whole, but yeah, I think for me, Wilder's just going to be able to show that edge. He's got that speed, he's got that agility, and I think Fury is probably. He's taken this fight a bit too showing big balls in the same time. Yep. So listen, guys, we're going to wrap it up. A few of you would have heard Inam talk about the fact that we're moving to the next level, boys. What'd you say? The next level. We are now live streaming on YouTube, so make sure you go and check this out after you listen to this podcast. So if you don't want to download it on iTunes, you can also go into our YouTube channel. Please help us get some more subscribers, more likes, and more moolah. So guys, we're going to wrap up, but guys, we want to shout out the social medias.
Yeah, just one thing before we shout out the social medias. Just want to wish Frank Buglioni a happy retirement.
Yep.
Best wishes, a great career and a great servant to the sport. For our social media, make sure you follow us on @RapsOnTV, Twitter, Raps on TV Boxing News on Facebook, and across those Facebook groups that we've been touching on, and especially on our Instagram page @RapsOnTV, all lowercase. And we're going to try and get all this visual content shared across our social media platforms and keep you guys posted with the biggest news in boxing.
Yep, and I just want to give my commiserations to Jeff and Barry, who just didn't dial in today. Hopefully next week they come in.
It's hard being a keyboard warrior.
It's hard being a keyboard warrior, man. I know you want to bond with your son and that. Sometimes you just gotta dial in, man.
But all banter. So guys, listen, thank you again, and keep supporting. And we're looking forward to what we're doing in the future.
Bomb Squad!
Inam.
Bomb Squad!
There's only one Tyson Fury!
We're going against our predictions now.
Man, I was hoping you say Bomb Squad because I've done the Eddie Hearn thing. And no one fucking knows you.
Exactly.